This is in California, and I apologize in advance if I leave anything important out, because right now my brain is honestly about to explode. I've barely slept and I'm trying to write this down clearly while I still can, so bear with me. Let me start from the beginning. 3 months ago, I put in an offer on a house, and it got accepted. And I want you to understand what that meant to me, because this wasn't just any house. This was the one. My wife and I had been looking for a long time. We have a kid. We wanted a real place to settle into, raise our family, the kind of house you don't leave. We walked through this one and we both just knew. So when the offer got accepted, it felt like the start of an entire chapter of our lives. Over the next few months, the closing date kept getting pushed back a little for various reasons on both sides. And I want to be clear, that part was all completely normal. Escrow stuff, paperwork, nothing alarming, nothing that made me worry. These delays happen with almost every house. The final closing date, the day everything would be signed and done and the house would officially be mine, was set for October 15th. Now I need to tell you about the man I was buying the house from, the seller, because he turns out to be at the dead center of this whole mess. He is over 90 years old, and he is, by every single sign, extremely wealthy. We're talking multiple homes in multiple places, a collection of high-end cars. This is a man who is, to put it plainly, loaded. I want you to keep that in mind through this entire story, because everything that happens next, every horrible part of it, happens because of money. It always comes back to the money. So we're coming up on the finish line. I'm counting down the days. I've got movers booked. I've got a contractor lined up. I'm mentally already living in this house. And then the day before everything is supposed to be finalized, the day before the house legally becomes mine, his estranged daughter appears out of absolutely nowhere. I had never heard of this woman. Not once in 3 months of this deal had her name ever come up. And she goes straight to the real estate broker and the title company, and she makes a claim. She says her father, the seller, is not of sound mind. She says he's not mentally competent to be selling anything to anyone. And she says she's taking leave from her job, family medical leave, specifically so she can come take care of her poor father. The father, the actual seller, the man whose mind she's questioning, hears about this. And he completely disputes it. He says he has no relationship with this daughter at all. None. They're estranged for a reason, and he is so angry that she suddenly inserted herself into his life and his business that he calls the police and has her physically, forcibly removed from the property. And then it gets even better. The very next day it comes out that the letter she submitted, the family medical leave letter, her supposed proof, was forged. She faked it. She made up a document. And on top of that, when anyone actually checks, there is not one shred of evidence from any of her father's real doctors that there is anything wrong with his mind. Nothing. No diagnosis, no concern, no record. The entire claim was invented out of thin air. So you'd think that settles it, right? The claim is fake. The letter is forged. The father himself says she's lying and had her hauled off by police. So we just close the house and move on. No. Because here is what the title company does. The title company gets scared. They do not want to get sued. Their logic is, even though this woman's claim is complete garbage, if there is any chance whatsoever that a question exists about the seller's mental state, they could get dragged into a lawsuit down the road. They're protecting themselves, so they say they will not finalize anything, not one signature, unless the seller comes in person and signs the papers himself to prove with his own hand that he's of sound mind. And I really need you to sit with this for a second, because it's the part that keeps me up at night. If that woman had never shown up with her fake letter, my house would have been mine on the 15th. Finished. Settled. Keys in my hand. The deal was essentially done. Her lie, a lie that everyone involved already knows is a lie, is the single reason any of this is happening to me. A proven liar threw one forged piece of paper into the gears, and the whole machine seized up. So, okay, fine. The seller just needs to come sign in person to clear it up. Simple enough. Except the seller is not in California. This entire time he's been down in Cancun, Mexico, staying at one of his other properties, living the good life. He was supposed to fly back and come sign the documents Monday morning. Then, at the last minute, he rescheduled, and then today rolls around, and nobody can reach him. Nobody. His phone, nothing. The family is now suddenly saying he's in the hospital, but they won't say which hospital, they won't say what city, they won't say what country, and they will not give anyone a single way to contact him. So the one person on earth who can sign these papers and end this entire nightmare has completely vanished into thin air. And the only people who claim to know where he is are the exact same family members who started this whole thing in the first place. You do the math on that. So now the title company doesn't want to move forward at all. They're frozen. And my lender just called and told me flat out that the deal is dead unless it closes today. Today. As in the financing falls apart if we don't sign in the next few hours, and there is literally no one to sign. And here's the part that's genuinely making me feel sick to my stomach. In 3 weeks, my current condo is no longer mine. I already sold it. That deal is done and final. I have to be completely out with my wife, my kid, and every single thing we own in 20 days. 20 days. And the place we were supposed to move into is the house that just got ripped away from me. And it gets even worse because I had already committed real money to this. I have almost $20,000 worth of building materials already scheduled to be delivered to the new house. I put down a $5,000 non-refundable deposit on a contractor to start work. I prepaid my moving costs, so right now, the way this is collapsing, I am looking at being out nearly $15,000, gone, just like that. Plus whatever I'll have to pay for a rental or a hotel, plus storage for all our furniture, plus a worse mortgage rate if I somehow even still get the house. We could be out the money and out a home at the same time. So here are my questions, and I am ashamed to say I genuinely don't know the answer to any of them. Do I even have a case here? And if I do, who on earth do I even sue? The seller, the title company, or the daughter who lit this entire fire? And the question I'm honestly most afraid to even type out, if that old man is actually dead somewhere in Mexico, what do I do then? Update, okay. It's been a wild couple of days since I posted that, and I have an update, and I genuinely don't know whether to call it good or bad, because it's both. At one point during all this, I slept a grand total of about 20 minutes across a 36-hour stretch. If you've never been that tired from pure stress, I don't recommend it. Your hands shake. You forget words mid-sentence. You can't tell anymore if you're thinking clearly or just spiraling. That's the headspace I've been writing all this from. Let me give you the good news first, because I really needed some. I managed to get those $20,000 of building materials rerouted, so they're not just piling up on the driveway of a house I don't legally own yet. That was a scramble, but it's handled. My contractor was a stand-up guy about it and agreed to postpone the work at no cost to me, which means I didn't lose that $5,000 deposit after all. And the biggest one, the thing that actually let me breathe, the guy who bought my condo turned out to be a genuinely good human being. When I broke down and explained the whole nightmare to him, he didn't have to do anything. The sale was done, the place was his. But he offered to let me and my family stay in our old condo as tenants, just covering his mortgage cost, until I sort this out. So, we are not going to be homeless in 20 days. I cannot tell you what it did for me to hear that. It was the first full breath I'd taken in a week. And I found a lawyer, a real estate attorney who specializes specifically in evictions. The person who recommended him to me described him in just 2 words. They said, he is bloodthirsty. And at this point in my life, that is precisely what I wanted to hear. Remember him, because he matters a lot later. Now the bad news, and I'll be honest, it's bad. The family, the daughter and whoever she's got working with her are not just making phone calls and forging letters anymore. They have physically moved into the house. My house, the one I'm in the middle of buying. They are squatting in it right now as I write this. And these are not amateurs. These people clearly know exactly what they're doing, because they have made absolutely sure to keep at least one person inside the house at all times, around the clock. Day and night, there is always a body in there. And the reason that detail matters so much is this. Because there is always a person physically living inside. I can't just drive over and change the locks and take what's mine. The second someone is occupying a property, the law treats it completely differently. It stops being lock your own door and turns into a long, slow, formal eviction process. They've weaponized that on purpose. They know the system protects them while they're inside, so they make sure they're always inside. And somewhere in those sleepless nights, I finally understood why they were doing all of this. The whole thing clicked into place and it made me sick. This old man, the seller, is wealthy, but the vast majority of his wealth, his other homes, his cars, his money, is all down in Mexico, out of the family's easy reach, hard to grab, hard to fight over from here. But this house, the one I'm buying, is basically the only valuable piece of his entire estate that's sitting right here in California, where they can actually put their hands on it. So this was never about taking care of their elderly father, not for 1 second. It's about looting the one asset they can physically occupy before anyone can stop them. And I just happened to be the guy standing between them and it, even though I agreed to pay full asking price. I didn't lowball this man. I didn't take advantage of an old guy. I offered him full price, fair and square, and now I'm the villain in their story. The seller, by the way, is still missing. Still to this hour, nobody can reach him. The family obviously knows where he is, and they will not tell a single living soul, which tells you everything. So I did the obvious thing. I went to the police, and when the regular officers wouldn't help, I escalated it all the way up to the local sheriff's office, and every single person I talked to told me the exact same thing. It's a civil matter. They will not take action. I am almost certain the ringleader committed real, actual fraud with that forged medical leave document to pull this whole scheme off, and it doesn't matter. It's a civil matter, not their problem. Good luck, goodbye. That's the part that really breaks something in you. You grow up believing that if someone does something this brazen, this dishonest, there's some authority you can call who will step in, and then you find out when it's actually you that there mostly isn't. So here's where my head is at right now. And maybe it's foolish, maybe it's the sleep deprivation talking, but I have decided that I am not going to bend to these people. Not an inch. I refuse to let people like this win. On principle, I am not going to offer them cash to leave, no payoff, no reward for what they did, not a single dollar to make my own problem go away, because that's what they want, and giving it to them just teaches them it works. Instead, the moment I legally get them thrown out of my house, I am going to go after every asset of theirs that I am legally entitled to. If it falls within my legal rights, I want to ruin them. I want this to cost them. We'll see if I still feel this brave by the next update, final update. So it's been a few months now, and I'm coming back one last time because it is finally completely over. I want to tell you how the whole thing ended, start to finish, because it was a genuine ride and you all stuck with me through the worst of it. After my last post, I sat down with that lawyer, the bloodthirsty one. And he did not waste a single second. He immediately drew up and sent out the paperwork to start the formal eviction. That notice gave the squatters 30 days to get out on their own before we take them to court and do it the hard way. And then those 30 days just went by, quietly, barely a word from anyone, no fight, no angry calls, no lawyer on their end, nothing. And I want to tell you that silence did not feel like relief. With these specific people, after everything they'd already pulled, quiet didn't feel like them giving up. It felt like the held breath before something. I kept waiting for the next move, the next forged document, the next stunt. It never came during those 30 days, and somehow that made it worse, not better. I was bracing the whole time. After the 30 days were up, I drove over to the house to check on it, and for once it was empty. Nobody inside, no car, no lights, no person posted at the window. So, and I'll be honest with you, this is the moment I stopped playing nice. I climbed in through a window. Think about how absurd that is for a second. I broke into a house that I am buying, that I am paying full price for, that I have committed my entire family's future to, because a group of strangers had been illegally living in it for months. I got in. And then I moved fast. I had a locksmith come out and change every single lock in the place. I disconnected the garage door opener so the remote was useless. I physically barred every other possible way in that I could find. I locked that house down like a vault, and somehow the very next day they got back in. I still don't fully know how they managed it. New locks, disconnected garage, barred entries, and within 24 hours they were back inside, like none of it had happened. When I found out, I just stood there. I think I laughed, the kind of laugh that isn't really a laugh. At that point, I was completely, totally done. So, on my lawyer's direct advice, the next time I came by and found the place empty, I went all the way. I boarded up the windows, actually nailed boards over them. And I posted a formal notice on the property telling anyone inside or anyone who showed up to contact my attorney directly. A few days after that, my lawyer got a phone call. It was the family's lawyer who, surprise of surprises, turned out to be a family friend doing them a favor. And this lawyer called specifically to threaten us with a lawsuit. They were going to sue me. Me, the guy who bought the house and got broken into and squatted on for months. And this is the moment where having a bloodthirsty attorney finally fully paid off. My lawyer didn't flinch. He fired back with everything we had, every single piece of evidence, that these people had no lease, none, not a scrap of paper giving them any right to be there, that they had no legal claim to the property whatsoever, that the entire purchase, every document, was in my name, that they had abandoned the property within the 30-day notice window. And then he made it crystal unmistakably clear that I was fully prepared and fully willing to come after every asset they owned down to the last dollar. And after that one email, silence. Total, complete silence. I never heard from the seller again. I never heard from the squatters again. I never heard from their lawyer again. The whole thing, all those months of war just evaporated. They were simply gone, like they'd never been there at all. So in the 2 months after that, I finally moved in. Although calling it moving in is generous, because what I actually did was move into a full-blown construction zone. Bare walls in places, tools everywhere, half the house torn up, dust in everything. We lived in the middle of it, but you know what? It was mine. Every nail of it was mine, and for the first time in months, nobody on earth was fighting me for it. Now remember my big plan? My defiant promise to go after their assets, to ruin them, to make them pay for every sleepless night? I did actually look into following through on it. And here's the deflating truth I found out. The squatters have nothing, no real assets worth anything at all. When I actually dug into it, beyond maybe a small claim suit that wasn't worth my time, my energy, or another minute of my life, there was simply nothing there to take. You cannot get money out of people who don't have any. All that righteous fury I'd been carrying, all those plans to make them hurt, there was just nowhere for it to land. So that part of it, the revenge, the comeuppance, the justice, it just never happened. It quietly fizzled into nothing. But here's the other side of it. The construction finished just a few days ago, and the house is genuinely gorgeous. It really is. It's everything my wife and I pictured that very first day we walked through it all those months ago before any of this started. And right now, as I'm writing this to you, I am sitting in my new living room on my own couch with my wife on one side and my kid on the other, watching movies and just enjoying my life in my home, the one we fought for. I'll be honest with you about how I actually feel, though, because I think that honesty is the only thing this whole story is really worth. Justice wasn't served here. Not really. The people who lied, who forged official documents, who squatted in my home for months, who put my wife and my kid and me through absolute hell and nearly cost us everything we had, they didn't face any real punishment for any of it. They just walked away into their lives. And I've had to make a kind of uneasy peace with something I didn't want to be true, that rotten people don't always get what's coming to them. Sometimes the bad guys just get away with it, shrug and move on to the next thing, but it is what it is. You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. In the end, I got my house, I got my family safely inside its walls. And maybe the hard lesson here is that that was the only thing that was ever actually worth fighting for. Not the revenge, not making them pay, just getting my family home. The rest of it I've had to let go. This is going to be my final update. Thank you all, truly, for everything. It genuinely helped more than you know to have somewhere to put all of this while I was living through it.